There is a common issue with the occult where people will say intent is all that matters. They say it a lot less than they did when I was, a couple years ago. They were saying it a lot more, but they are still saying it. Every so often you will see pockets of it. So, today I want to talk a little bit about personal practice, intent, and why it is not the be-all, end-all. I am Dave the Amateur Magus. On this channel I talk all about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find within a dusty old grimoire. If you enjoy what I do here and you want to support the channel, link in the description down below to the Patreon, and if you are already supporting me on Patreon, you have my thanks for your continued and ongoing support. So, when it comes to intention, magic is often, a lot of people will say that intent is all that matters when it comes to the occult. This is, of course, not true. You can't just believe something and have it be true 100% of the time. I don't care what chaos magic says. Chaos magic is also not true. There are, unfortunately, spiritual fixtures that are always going to come up, and they are always going to be things that you need to pay attention to. For example, if you are going through the path of least resistance, the rules of the path of least resistance are always going to be an issue. This is why we have binding actions not wanted. For example, if you want a new car, well, the path of least resistance might be for you to get into a car crash and the insurance payout pays for a new car. That is not exactly positive, which is why we have with no harm done at the end of our spells like this. There is a kind of cliche that, I did a money spell and my far-off uncle died and I was left in the will and I didn't remember him, but he remembered me and he gave me thousands of dollars, and that kind of thing is so cliche. It is kind of old hat at this point. And this in and of itself is an example of magic is not always about intention, because if magic was always about intention, we wouldn't need to do bindings of actions not wanted. We would just be able to fire and forget. But we have to. We have to do a little bit of prep work. This is actually one of my main gripes with chaos magic. Chaos magic, for those of you who need a quick refresher, is a philosophical, kind of magical pseudo-tradition that believes that belief is a tool and that we can get magic to work through sheer belief. If we believe in something enough, it will just work. A long time ago, a friend of mine tried to do a money spell. And the way she did this was she used the invocationary hexagram of Jupiter, and everything else, all of the god names and all of that, was the god names for Venus. So effectively, she invoked Jupiter and then pulled it through Venus's lens. What this did, despite the fact that she was planning on invoking Jupiter for money, was this made her love life absolutely flourishing. And she went ahead and she had done the money spell after this operation, and what ended up happening was there was no money to be had. In fact, she ended up spending more money because her love life absolutely popped off. In fact, every single Venerian aspect of her life was in full swing. But there was no money. The extra money that she had been trying to cast for under Jupiter did not occur. Why is this? Well, the intention was to invoke Jupiter, but the symbol set was for Venus. This caused a bit of a cross-wire situation where Jupiter expanded everything Venerian in her life. I've also seen this happen when somebody was trying to do a planetary initiation course and they accidentally had Saturn's symbolism on top of Jupiter's hexagrams. What ended up happening was an excessively high amount of Saturn. I believe I've told these stories multiple times before, but these are fairly strong reminders that intent is not the be-all, end-all of the occult, because if you are doing something, then the symbolism and the actual things that you are employing matter. You can't just, unless you are using just raw divine will and projection, then you need to pay attention to all of the different moving parts you have going on in your rituals and in your operations. This is actually why I absolutely abhor the use of chaos magic as an explanation for things. If you believe in something hard enough, you can get it to work with chaos magic. Well, yes, but usually when people are doing personal correspondence swaps, the people who are doing those have a really good reason. Whether that be because it was revealed to them by an angel or Crowley's Divine Revelations where he switches the tarot, they usually have a good reason, even if the reason is honestly kinda crap. But there are some things that you're going to find that just don't work when it comes to trying to chaos magic them into working. It would take a hell of a lot of gaslighting for somebody to believe that fire is the element of cold moisture. Mostly because if you tried to do that and treat it like it was cold moisture, you would probably burn your hands off, which at that point you could believe whatever you want, but it's not going to work. Especially because the elemental system already has something for wet moisture, water. Ultimately, if you are working some kind of magical system, you need to be working that magical system the way it is intended. There are a lot of stories of people who try to redesign the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram because they think, all angels are Judeo-Christian monsters and they all serve the evil demiurge, the evil Yahweh, all that stuff, and then they proceed to put pagan gods in place of the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram and that general format, not realizing that the gods that they have put in the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram in place of the angels fucking hate each other. And so what does that do? Well, their intent was to create an alternative ritual to the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, and instead what they have accidentally done is create an astral bar fight. Now, if you are making a system of magic out of whole cloth, then you're rarely going to need to deal with a lot of these issues. If you are going to be using a system that is already semi-pre-existing, however, you do need to take these things into account before you actually go off and try to cast any spells. If I was to try to use a candle spell, and I decide to be dark and edgy, and I'm going to be using black candles for love, well, when crazy big titty goth girl shows up out of nowhere, yeah, I should probably expect that. That's kind of on you if you do that. But conversely, if I am trying to do a healing spell and and I'm using like infectious disease green, well, yeah, you should probably be, that doesn't exactly seem like a healing color to me. And that kind of could make things worse, depending on, it like really nasty mustard yellows too. Basically anything involved with like the color scheme of the Sphere of Malkuth, like the really bad mustard, the really nasty olive green, the black, like all of those, you probably don't want to be using, right? But that's because those correspond on a subconscious level. So if you were going to be doing a magical ritual involving any kind of candle, at the very bare minimum, if you don't have a candle correspondence system, the best thing you can do is go ahead and start looking up color theory. Because color theory and the symbolism behind colors is going to inform you about what those colors mean to you on a subconscious level, right? Throughout all of human history, the original three colors were these: light, dark, and red. Light being light, bright colors, dark being black and all of the darker colors, and red being the color of blood, okay? Human beings naturally see red, green, light. Animals naturally see blue, yellow. in the colorblind spectrum. So if we are going ahead and we are using red, that is calling upon primordial ancestral knowledge, and that is calling upon primordial colors in that way. Similarly, if you wanted to use red as the color of happiness and joy, and you are not using any other color, well, good luck with that, because primordially speaking, that color is known for the human reaction to, when humans see red, we naturally get more aggressive, and it causes a kind of adrenaline response. This also, all of this intense stuff does tie into personal practice, because that doesn't mean that there isn't any room for, conflicting things with the mainstream narrative in your personal practice. I have a lot of things in my personal practice that are going to be different from a lot of other people. For example, in my personal practice, the Fool Tarot card can occasionally mean just kind of throwing caution to the wind and saying, let's just see what happens. That is what the Fool card can occasionally mean. Now, that's not that different now, the ordinary, from a lot of people, but there's also things like, extreme weight loss can occasionally be the Nine of Pentacles when I am reading for people. It's come up once or twice. Now, what ends up happening is when you are doing these personal correspondences, you have a good reason for them. And it's not that you're contradicting anything that is pre-existing. It is kind of usually it's a supplement or a replacement. In the 3 books of occult philosophy, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa talks about how some correspondences are gained through their innate, just naturally, this thing corresponds to this, because it just does, right? Sunflowers are a good example. They look like the sun, they follow the sun, they're in the classification, I believe they are a heliotrope, which is a plant that follows the sun, so therefore they are all sun correspondent. But then he gives a different type, where he talks about how some correspondences are acquired through their actual use, right? This is things like funerary spices or frankincense. Frankincense is also solar, but that was because they were burning it in church on Sundays to remind people of the sacred divinity, thereby inheriting that solar aspects of Jesus and Sunday Mass. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about a little bit about how intent is not the be-all, end-all of your magical practice. There are things that are going to be hard and actually more concrete, and just because you want something to be a certain way doesn't always mean it will be a certain way. That being said, I have been Dave the Amateur Magus. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to support the channel, link in the description of the Patreon where you can get exclusive access to videos early, Patreon exclusive content, and the Occultic Manual series, which is a monthly write-up that I aim at being more instructional than what I have here on the channel, but less unapproachable than some of the old grimoires I like to reference on the channel. If any of that sounds of interest to you, once again, the link down below takes you to the Patreon, and if you're already supporting us on Patreon, you have my thanks for your continued and ongoing support. Hope everyone is having a good day. If you're not having a good day, I hope your day gets better. Take it easy, take care, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.